healthcare workers of Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital satisfy the needs of foreign COVID patients by online translation. The newly completed Indonesia Tzu Chi Hospital contributes to pandemic prevention to safeguard lives.
歡迎收睇DaAi Headlines， 我係 Ruby 我哋一齊嚟睇下今日嘅內容。In Taiwan, the quarantine hotel, where the medical staff of Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital are stationed in, has accommodated some COVID-confirmed migrant workers. As they cannot read or speak Chinese, how could the medical procedures be carried out? The healthcare workers have come up with a trick to resolve communication problems.
Our nurses actually have to call the residents twice a day to inquire about their condition. During the process, my colleague discovered that this resident could not answer him, as there is also a line app in our system, so by using it to send messages to the resident, we knew indirectly that he is actually a Vietnamese migrant worker. In our team, some younger nurses suggested using Google Translation function to communicate with him.
Seeking help from Google, the healthcare workers for quarantine hotels not only care about the health conditions of the confirmed COVID migrant workers, but also can cover their daily needs.
He wanted to eat fruit. How did we know that? We actually got to know this by using Google Translate. We asked what kind of fruit he would like to eat, and he replied he wanted to eat oranges. My colleague knew there are no oranges in season, so we told him tactfully that we have other types of fruit. Is apple okay? He replied happily that any kind of fruit was fine.
It's more important to understand patient's meaning than paying attention to the grammatical structure. To maintain a good medical and patient relationship, active participation and diligent contribution is needed to resolve any barriers. Such an experience is definitely unforgettable.
During the pandemic, our resources are relatively limited. I think using such information technology to solve problems is quite effective and instant.
慈济医院为了大家能够早一点点离开我们检疫所，而且非常平安健康，我们会持续提供素食。
The medical team of Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital quoted research from the latest British medical journal to provide tips for COVID-confirmed cases to avoid having severe symptoms.
For a COVID-confirmed medical worker who is vegetarian, the occurrence of severe symptoms was reduced by more than 70%. If you eat a meat diet, your condition will become more serious. So we told residents that we would provide them with vegetarian food throughout their stay. I think this is a very important factor for them to reduce the severity of their illness. After all, the medical treatment we can do in the quarantine hotel is really very limited. Having a vegetarian diet to help them maintain mild symptoms so that they can discharge smoothly and safely, I think it's very worthwhile.
There are far more epidemic prevention issues than expected, and there is no holiday during the pandemic. In the case of the Dragon Boat Festival, the quarantine hotel also needs to be sanitized regularly. In the midst of the pandemic, heartwarming actions also appeared. Nearby residents gave complimentary drinks to cheer on the frontliners. In this wave of the pandemic, both care providers and care recipients have the same clear goal that the virus can be defeated as soon as possible so they can return home in good health.
During the Dragon Boat Festival, in order to cheer the COVID patients in the quarantine hotel, Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital has specially prepared zongzi for them to enjoy, hoping that they can have a speedy recovery.
Suffering from mild COVID symptoms, this pair of brothers stayed in a quarantine hotel. They shared the happiness of balancing eggs successfully with healthcare workers while conducting video consultations. taking advantage of the Dragon Boat Festival, it is hoped that COVID patients will receive reassuring medical treatment while also having festive blessings. Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital has prepared vegetarian zongzi for the residents in the quarantine hotel.
Early in the morning, the superintendent brought more than 200 zongzi here. As the Dragon Boat Festival is one of our 3 major festivals, it is unprecedented for the residents to spend the Dragon Boat Festival in a quarantine hotel. We hope the residents, whether they are staying alone or with the whole family, can still feel the festive atmosphere.
Despite the tense atmosphere arising from the pandemic in society, the different festive feeling in this quarantine hotel should definitely make this year's Dragon Boat Festival unforgettable.
In Taichung Tzu Chi Hospital, the staff in the social service department prepared snacks and fruits for the medical staff every day, being the strongest support for the medical staff physically and spiritually.
Boxes of sparkling water, baskets, snacks on the cart are also given to the medical staff on duty.
来，今天准备有气泡茶、气泡水。花生。
Thank you, thank you. I almost cried. I'm very happy. At least someone is supporting us.
The staff in the social service department stay in the hospital and accompany the medical staff to face the challenges of the pandemic.
When faced with a disaster, we will protect each other together with our hearts. We can't be on the front line, but we'll be a supporter in the back.
I feel like being taken care of. I can continue to work hard, and everyone is still working hard.
When they knew we were the Tzu Chi sisters who brought the snacks, they were very happy. Sometimes they scream. They can feel the warmth sent by our volunteers.
The pandemic threat has left the hospital seeming desolate, but the care sent by volunteers became a great hope of the medical staff.
In Hsinchu City, vaccination has begun for the elderly over 80 years old. Hsinchu Jingsi Hall is one of the 6 vaccination stations. Its space layout and movement line planning are full of ingenuity, making the elderly who come to receive vaccinations feel intimate.
Starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, elders over 80-year-old, accompanied by family members, came for vaccination. At Hsinchu Jingsi Hall, more than 30 volunteers came to help. When the volunteer saw an elderly person with a mobility issue, he immediately brought a chair.
This is quite different from the vaccinations in other places. Because they are all elders, they are slow, so we just take it slow.
Outdoor venues are covered with smooth wooden planks. There is also a barrier-free ramp for wheelchair mobility.
The whole process was very well arranged, especially when I saw the ice cube. They were afraid that everyone would be hot because the fan would be cooler, so they were really careful.
Tzu Chi Jingsi Hall can be said to have the best environment among our 6 vaccination stations. Because it is indoor, there is comfortable ventilation.
Before being vaccinated, the elderly will be carefully asked about their physical condition. Only if there is no health problem can the vaccination be given. Volunteers in the observation area patrol back and forth, giving greetings to the public and reminding them about the time with a video.
The most special thing about this Tzu Chi station is that we use the screen as a clock to remind everyone that 30 minutes is up and it's time to leave.
Before leaving, the volunteers gave soy milk powder to the elders to supplement their nutrition and help them to get through the discomfort period after vaccination.
In Malaysia, the Jingsi Hall in Kuala Lumpur has become one of the vaccination centers. Timur is helping out with volunteers on the weekends to vaccinate people, hoping to achieve herd immunity and control the pandemic outbreak.
As one of Malaysia's vaccination centers, Kuala Lumpur's Jingsi Hall welcomed the first batch of 684 people for vaccinations. In addition to medical teams, Tzu Chi volunteers are also on site to help guide people through the route and process.
I think people are very friendly, and I think because the volunteers came from the same background, they know each other, so the relationship and the cooperation among the volunteers and the healthcare organizers is there, and that's good for Tzu Chi.
Unlike other vaccination centers, Jingsa Hall is not a big venue, but it has more of the human touch.
From what I can see here, this situation is different. People don't have stress coming in, they don't have stress waiting, they don't have stress progressing from station to station, so they're not angry. So it is a very good atmosphere.
The deputy health director, aside from inspecting the scene on the same day, also came to cheer up the medical staff and the public.
I am a month now. I just gave birth of a child. My child is close to 2 months old. I am confident about this vaccination.
The government originally planned to achieve 80% herd immunity by the end of 2021, but due to the erratic epidemic, it hopes to accelerate the national vaccine delivery rate to curb the spread of the coronavirus. It's estimated that in July, the daily vaccination will reach the goal of 200,000 doses.
In Indonesia, the newly established Tzu Chi Hospital sets aside its 9th floor to treat COVID patients, relieving the tense medical capacity in Jakarta. Also, Tzu Chi volunteers specially held a medicine Buddha ritual to send blessings to the patients.
The Indonesia Tzu Chi Hospital in Jakarta is about to be complete after 6 years of construction. However, before the full opening, one of the floors will be opened to become a pandemic prevention center.
Recently, the number of confirmed cases has increased in Indonesia, and many hospitals seem to be in short of health facilities and are almost unable to sustain it. So we first used one of the floors of the building to provide the most ideal facilities. Also fulfills our original intention of human-oriented medical care.
The day before the opening, Tzu Chi volunteers held a medicine Buddha ritual to send blessings to the patients who will be admitted.
We come to chant the Sutra of Medicine Buddha today and pray that all patients will return home safely and healthily after coming to our hospital for treatment.
The Indonesia Tzu Chi Hospital kicked off the construction in June 2015. After 6 years, it is now ready to serve patients. The head of the Tzu Chi family in Indonesia also gave her expectations.
Everyone is united so we can complete the hospital. I hope that our Tzu Chi Hospital is a hospital that saves lives and is also a model hospital.
The Indonesia Tzu Chi Hospital, which gathers the love of all people, will assume the responsibility of gathering life in the future and will become a stronghold of health in Indonesia.
In Thailand, since the beginning of this month, various provinces have successively launched nationwide vaccination campaigns. 3 large-scale vaccination stations have been set up in Phra Prudent, Samit Prakan province. In order to make sure no one has adverse reactions after the injections, the local health bureau asked Tzu Chi for assistance by providing zongzi folding beds so that people can sit and rest after being vaccinated.
To prevent the pandemic, Thailand has launched a large-scale nationwide vaccine campaign starting in early June. Phra Prudent in Samit Prakan province asked Tzu Chi for supplies, and Bangkok volunteers immediately delivered them in person.
Thank you very much for your donation from Tzu Chi. We'll put these Jingsa folding beds to good use. They will be placed in 3 vaccination locations in the province.
In addition to zongzi folding beds, this batch of supplies also includes daily protective equipment that frontline medical staff can use daily. The 60 beds in the Farpapedin hospital are no longer sufficient as supplies sent by volunteers can temporarily relieve their urgent needs.
These protective equipment is very helpful to our medical colleagues. As for the folding beds, some are put in the vaccination station, and the others are put in the ward for patients to use.
These zongzi beds are multifunctional. If there is a float in the future, we can reuse them and serve the folks in need.
The Thai government cooperates with the NGOs to fight the pandemic and break the chain of virus transmission as soon as possible.
In Hong Kong, Tzu Chi volunteers have driven nearby residents to do recycling at the North Point Road for more than 10 years. During the Dragon Boat Festival, volunteers sent a vegetarian zongzi to form affinities with nearby residents. Besides, in Kunxiang, Jiangsu, volunteers specially wrapped nearly 3,000 vegetarian zongzi for 108 care recipient families, sending blessings to them in the festival.
To welcome the Dragon Boat Festival, the Tzu Chi Liaison Office in Kunxiang, Jiangsu is very busy every year. In order to prepare the festive gifts for the care recipient families, volunteers were mobilized to wrap vegetarian zongzi, and the grandmas who were experienced passed on the wrapping skills.
We wrapped our Taiwanese zongzi. The wrapping style of the Taiwanese zongzi are different from the local ones. Everyone can come to have a look. The Taiwanese zongzi we try are all like this, with edges and corners. The thing we need to pay attention to is that this leaf must be wrapped in this way so the filling will not leak out.
With the efforts of volunteers, nearly 3,000 pieces of zongzi were completed in just 2 weekends. They were then sent to care recipients' homes by the team of visiting volunteers.
First, to train your arms so that you can sit in the wheelchair by yourself. After that, you can go out to anywhere you want, right?
Miss He, who is 26, suffered from paralysis in lower part of her body due to a car accident 3 years ago. Volunteers' companionship for a long time make her look forward to standing up again.
My relatives haven't expressed the sympathy for me, no care about me. They haven't even come to visit me, so I think you guys are better than my relatives. Although we are not related by blood, from a certain aspect, I am really touched.
At the recycling point at the North Point Road in Hong Kong, volunteers have been leading residents to do recycling since 2010. For more than a decade, nearby residents have developed a recycling habit already. Every year during festivals, volunteers will give out festive food to form affinities with everyone.
The Dragon Boat Festival is coming. Some of our Tzu Chi brothers and sisters work together to prepare delicious vegetarian zongzi to be distributed to all recycling volunteers and nearby residents. We hope that after consuming this vegetarian zongzi today, everyone is willing to adopt a vegetarian diet continuously.
Every vegetarian zongzi not only lets everyone feel the festive atmosphere, but the volunteers also took the opportunity to promote a meatless diet, so that vegetarian food can be present on the dining table of every family.
In mid-May, a rare tornado disaster occurred in Wuhan, Hebei, China, which caused considerable disasters in several villages in Taipei district. Tzu Chi volunteers want to care for the affected residents according to the list provided by the local government, hoping to provide necessary assistance to 116 families as soon as possible.
Trees are uprooted, and the walls and roofs of this residential house are blown away. In mid-May, the Taipei district in Wuhan, Hebei, was hit by a tornado. After nearly a month, many damaged houses are still in a mess.
Even recalling it, it was still very scared. I haven't been feeling flustered for a few days.
After the disaster, Tzu Chi volunteers in Wuhan continued to care for the affected residents. After the first disaster assessment in May, they visited the affected area again in June. This time, they went to visit the affected households one by one according to the list provided by the local government.
We just hit this little house. We thought that if other house collapsed, this little one would not be affected, so we hit it.
Most of these families are in financial difficulties and are unable to rebuild their homes after the disaster. When the volunteers visited, they record the situation of each household and also sent them blessings.
This is safe and this is auspicious. Although there was a disaster, it has passed already, right? Let's pray together. This little book is Jingzi aphorism. You can take a look. We hope that peace and auspiciousness will come. You see there is a bell below. Do you see it? We hope that peace and auspiciousness will come, okay?
The destructive power of natural disasters has made the residents who are already suffering in their lives even more unsustainable now. Tzu Chi volunteers went there for love, hoping to help the affected residents rebuild their homes.
The United Kingdom was on lockdown since March last year, and Tzu Chi's prostrating pilgrimage was suspended thereafter. With control measures finally relaxed in mid-May this year, volunteers seized the opportunity to host prostrating pilgrimage in Marvin Hills to calm their minds and make aspirations.
After the pandemic, everyone was able to step out and walk up the Marvin Hill. The moment must be cherished.
The fog is thick and the cold wind blows, but my heart is always thinking about what the Master said, raising my head to repent and bowing my head to be grateful. So I'm very focused on the present along the way.
Everyone bows every 3 steps with the most pious heart, slowly meditating on the body and mind along the way.
It feels very scarce, very peculiar, very close to the sky and very close to the earth. It is comfortable and very peaceful.
The temperature is only 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, which is like the temperature in a refrigerator. When you kneel down and touch the ground may only be 1 degree or 2 degrees Celsius, and the whole icy feeling will make people tremble.
In the UK, after the first lockdown on March 17, 2020, volunteers stopped organizing all activities. Until May 17, 2021, the government opened outdoor gatherings for up to 30 people. On the last day of May, a prostrating pilgrimage and Buddha Day ceremony were held.
This is the first time I participated in a prostrating pilgrimage organized by the UK Tzu Chi Liaison Office. I was very excited. Although I wake up very early, I am very happy and joyful.
After the pandemic eased in the UK, volunteers and residents gathered to pray for safety and health around the world.
Hualien Tzu Chi volunteers also contributed to the vaccination campaign, giving residents support in the form of loving care and nutritional drinks. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you and see you next time.